L.K. Ananthakrishna Iyer is a Tamil Brahmin, and he was working as a science assistant. A science assistant became a renowned anthropologist during colonial times. That is interesting. And when we read about Ananthakrishna Iyer, when we read about his career, we also get to know what was the nature of anthropology at that time. What actually was called colonial ethnography, or what was the purpose of colonialism in acquiring ethnography? What did they want to do with this knowledge? Okay. But about Ananthakrishna Iyer, M.N. Srinivas makes an observation which sums up how important Ananthakrishna Iyer was. Ananthakrishna became a legend to subsequent generations of anthropologists. In fact, anthropology was jokingly referred to as anthropology. It can be said with justice that the work and example of Ananthakrishna contributed substantially to the build-up of a scientific tradition in modern India. So, Ananthakrishna was being taken as contributing to the scientific tradition in modern India. So, how did he become what he became? So the way it happened was, he was a science assistant and a he was secretary to Dewan of Cochin, asked Iyer to do on an honorary basis work on ethnography of Cochin. Ethnography of Cochin. Ethnography of Cochin was a part of survey. Ethnography was part of survey that colonial administration was interested in as a part of census operations. Risley was Census Commissioner of 1901, and Risley already had done some work on Bengal, and he wanted to develop similar thing across India, and princely states and provinces were given instructions regarding this, and so as a part of that, Iyer was involved. And the way Iyer conducted this ethnography work was what contributed to the development of anthropology. He did it with the help of officials, but he did it in a way that contributed to scientific tradition in data generation as well as generalization. It is just like one person going with officials, but gathering information in a more scientific way. So the kind of innovation that Iyer did in gathering the data under government supervision, the way he classified it, the way he produced generalizations, theorized, and went about teaching ethnology, writing about it, was a part of story of development of anthropology in India. See, what is the survey for in the first place? The colonial administration was interested in a survey. Survey meant study of zoology, geology, botany, ethnography, economic products, history, and sociology of a region. So, ethnographic survey is a part of the survey. Ethnographic survey covers caste, tribes, and races. And Risley, who was Census Commissioner for 1901 census, already produced a work, Tribes and Castes of Bengal, in 1891. So Risley wanted to produce something on an all India level. So Risley was the one who was leading this project. So it was Risley's instructions that Iyer should follow. Risley being the Britisher and Iyer being a native without any training in anthropology. But in this context, let us see why the British were interested in this kind of detail. They were interested because, number one, it would be helpful to administration. There are obvious advantages to many branches of administration of an accurate and well-arranged record of the customs and the domestic and social relations of the various castes and tribes. The Government of India Census 1901 says that. But interestingly, being useful in administration is not the only reason. There was thinking at that time that the data anywhere is useful to solve the problems of mankind. The data about human societies anywhere is useful anywhere else. Look at this. India is a vast storehouse of social and physical data which only need to be recorded in order to contribute to the solution of the problems which are being approached in Europe. So the data from India is supposed to help Europe. Surely this is the spirit of anthropology. So we can't say the data is only to administer better. The data is for many other purposes. Or you can say that data is to Indian data is only to administer Indian people. So all this is in tune with the spirit of emerging discipline of anthropology. So, ethnographic survey was a part of this project, into which Iyer was recruited. In 1902, Diwan of Cochin offered Iyer, Diwan of Cochin, then a science assistant, to prepare ethnographic survey of the state of Cochin. Iyer worked on weekends, and finally this was published by 1940. Became so experienced that he gave lectures on ethnology at Madras University. Lectures on ethnology in India at Madras University, first of its kind in an Indian university. And then he was invited to set up anthropology department in Calcutta University. And with that university, he had been there till 1932. And when Iyer was with Calcutta University, Maharaja of Mysore asked him to work on ethnographic survey of Mysore. So, Iyer did two important works: ethnographic survey of Cochin and ethnographic survey of Mysore, which means caste and tribes of Cochin and caste and tribes of Mysore. And in this process, he developed certain methods, certain ideas, certain generalizations, and he developed contacts with anthropologists all over the world. And in 1934, he went on a lecture tour of European universities. He was corresponding with top anthropologists around that time, like Fraser, Rivers, Taylor. Okay. So the opportunity he got, he used it in such a way, and he developed methods in such a way that he became a respected anthropologist. Okay. Now, what kind of methods he used? You know, when Iyer was working, the reigning theory was classical evolutionism. Classical evolutionism was about developing questionnaires and sending the questionnaires to administrators, missionaries, travelers, asking them to administer on the natives. There was no field work. There was no direct questioning. It is through intermediaries. And anthropologists were just sitting in their universities. Okay. Or they didn't belong to universities. Indian administration was also a part of such methodology. Questionnaires were prepared, and revenue officials would go and get the answers. Iyer was supposed to monitor a process like that, but Iyer did it differently. What did he do? First, he himself went with the revenue officials. It means he was making field visits. He himself asked questions, because in the first survey on Cochin, he knew the language, and he would question the traditional leaders and other important people, and get answers, and he himself would write down. And then he would come back and prepare notes. He didn't leave it to minor officials. That is one thing. I mean, this meant that he was arriving at more accurate data, unlike others. And second thing was, Risley asked everybody to get anthropometric data, because Risley believed that anthropometric data was relevant to determination of race and caste status. But Iyer refused. Iyer modified Risley's format. Risley gave 24 format and Iyer made it to 14 format, which is a much simplified version. And also dropping anthropometry was a good decision. Number one, Risley's observations were theoretically flawed, so Iyer didn't have to go by a wrong theory. And second, anthropometric measurements definitely generate resistance. Who would like to be measured nose length and width and things like that? So bureaucracy was using its authority to get these measurements. This is what was going on in Madras at around the time. According to Risley criteria, Madras survey was finished by a British official. But Iyer didn't do that. Iyer was more humane in his approach, not forcing, not using the authority of the colonial administration. Then, of course, he was doing everything with the help of revenue officials only. But in a more cooperative way. And so that's how he would get the data, which was more authentic. What were the kind of questions that he asked? Sorry, it was 27.14. He was asking origin and tradition of caste or tribe, habitation, marriage customs, pregnancy and childbirth, inheritance and tribal organization, religion, magic and sorcery, funeral ceremonies, occupation, physical and mental characteristics, food and social status. Okay. These were the things. And American Anthropologist magazine, 1910, praised Iyer for ignoring anthropometry. And Iyer would take photos also. In Cochin, he knew the language. In Mysore, he didn't know, but he did it firsthand. Okay. So one may think this was all about the data, but that is not true. He generalized the data and wrote essays on various topics which are regarded as subjects of study in anthropology. He made many generalizations. He used what he observed, compared with things that he studied. So he got accurate data. In fact, sometimes, for example, in Mysore, he was already given certain monographs before. Monographs appeared before he started. But Iyer revised them, and some monographs he simply rejected. Some data he simply rejected. So his data was more accurate, that is one. And second, he compared it with what he studied, and then he generalized. So definitely he's a pioneer in the development of scientific tradition in India, in anthropology. Now let us see what kind of essays he wrote. For example, see this observation on. So he wrote essays like on caste, religion, marriage, family. And volume 1 of Mysore Tribes and Castes deals with these topics, and he discusses theories of castes. Then kind of generalizations. Say what he said on religion. The Parayan and Panan sorcerers have powers of witchcraft. The Mundas of Chota Nagpur have similar beliefs in transformation. The Todas and Badagas are mortally afraid of the Kurumbas, who are believed to possess the power of destroying men, animals, and property by witchcraft. Thus, sorcery is a living faith among the ignorant and backward people, as also among the jungle folk. See, in this statement, he was including many tribes and their belief on sorcery. He is using the knowledge of what he himself learned in his survey and also what he read about. It's nothing but anthropology. So you cannot say he was only just getting survey data. Next, on tribe and caste, for example, he makes one important observation. It is curious to note tribes once with very low culture have gradually imbibed the culture of the higher castes, assumed new caste names, or become merged into the already existing caste by adopting Brahminic gotras or names of new Puranic heroes as their original ancestors. This is what M.N. Srinivas would one day use and develop concept of Sanskritization. Okay. So it is in these ways I contributed to the evolution of scientific tradition. So within the constraints and opportunities he had, he did a best job.